We're going to talk about a four-letter word spelled H-E-L-P, help. Something that I have found people really struggle with asking and also sometimes struggle with giving. Have you found it difficult to ask for help during your time as a university student?
So asking for help has been a very, very difficult thing to kind of overcome. I've always been a very social person. I meet people all the time. I love conversation, getting to know, who people are and where they come from. But I always have struggled with asking for help, whether it's just a pride thing or I think that I can do something on my own. Help usually isn't where I want to go first. I want to be able to do it on my own and be proud of that.
Why do you think people tend to wait so long before they're ready to appropriately ask for help?
It can be difficult at times. It might be a pride thing. It might just be a social anxiety thing.
I also think that it can be how we were raised. I know I'll see some of the little kids in my life struggling with something and not asking for help. And I'll often coach them to say, can you say, help me, please? And so I even see it in children where it's not necessarily innate. How were you raised in terms of asking for help in your own family structures or in school?
I was raised that help was always available and that if you need it, it's there for you. However, you need to give a good try first. I remember sitting at the kitchen table doing math homework in third, fourth, fifth grade. I would try and get my mom or dad to come over and give me some quote unquote help, but really just do the math homework for me. And that kind of adapted into a teaching style from my parents that you do it on your own first. And if you fail, we're going to help you.
We've been talking about this issue of asking for help. Let's switch over to how it is that we help others, because it can be done in an amazing way with lots of connection. And it can also be a little bit unhealthy where we're actually giving too much of ourselves and not taking good enough care of our own person, all the while pouring too much into others. So there are many, many layers to this equation, but let's start with the great ways that students can help each other. And let's dive right into our own public speaking class, the class that you were in with me. How did you see students helping each other in the classroom?
So I think it goes back to when we had our public speaking coaches, which were other students in the class. When we were paired up together, we were going through the same material, learning the same course that each other were, and we were able to sit down and have a really structured feedback session. What did you do good? What did you do bad? What can you improve on the next time? And I think what's really important about that structured feedback is that it trains our mind to give help that way. When I want to give help or feedback, I give it the same way that it was taught this semester. And it helped me teach someone else, hey, this is a great way to give feedback. And we learned in ROTC about giving feedback a lot and giving help. And what they would tell us, they would call it the feedback sandwich. So you start with something great that they're doing. So in our public speaking class, it could be like, hey, that opener you had was great. You caught everyone's attention and everyone was tuned in. And then right in the middle, the meat is kind of where you want to put your feedback. So, hey, that opener was great. When you came in to your thesis or what you wanted to talk about, you weren't really too clear. And it went on a little too long. You kind of lost the audience a little bit. Well, you want to come with that second piece of bread, which is positive feedback to leave off on a good note. So, and you could say, well, your closing, you had everyone in the closing. You made the entire room laugh. It was great. And what that feedback session, what that help does is you said, hey, you did something great, but you can improve on this, but you also did something great. So that sandwich kind of leaves the person with a satisfaction like, oh, wow, I did, two things great. They just pointed out to me. Okay, yeah, you know what? I can improve on my three main points I wanted to talk about.
To recap what you're saying then, one of the ways that you think students were able to help each other in a mutual way was in the speaking partnerships, the speaking coaches that we set up in class, where I'd pair each of you randomly in a team of two, and throughout the semester, with different prompts after each speech, you would debrief, talking about the things that you each did well and the things that you need to work on better for next time. As long as we're able to be honest with each other in terms of the feedback, I know that we as people have a negativity bias, and the things that we do wrong stand out, and they feel so much stronger than all the things that we did well. And it's important to me that I let everybody know, everybody listening, every student in my class, you, myself, that we have to actively remind ourselves of the things that we do well because of that bias. A negative comment tends to be so much stronger than a positive one. Your perspective is very interesting because you're going into your senior year. You are an active member of ROTC. Maybe not everybody knows what ROTC is. Tell us a little bit about that and what your involvement with that is and how you're connecting ROTC, university, and this topic, which is helping others and asking for help.
Absolutely. So for those of you who do not know, ROTC stands for Reserve Officer Training Corps. I do the Air Force branch of the United States military here at Rutgers University. It's a program here where you do military training at the same time you get your degree. And between your freshman and sophomore year, you get selected to go down to your field training, which is in Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama. I was a trainer last year, my junior year. I came back from my field training, and my job was to oversee 17 freshmen and sophomore cadets in the program. And I think what I really did learn, and the biggest thing that I wanted to make a point about this meeting, was the idea of credibility. I remember when I was at my field training down in Alabama, the officer in charge of my group told us courage plus charisma plus character equals credibility. So those three things together combined makes you a credible person. So when we broke it down, we talked about, courage, being willing to step up into a authority position. When I say authority, I don't mean like yelling at people and doing this. You could be in an authority position, but
right, you can be an authority without being authoritative.
Right, exactly. So having the courage to step into that position is a huge step to take. It's no easy feat, but you step up, and before you know it, you're walking with your people. And then we have character, who you are as a person, just like we talked about before. I try to be as selfless as I can and help out people in any problem that they're having. I want to help people. I want to see people go from maybe not okay to great. I love to see that transition. And then you have charisma. Do you have what it takes to physically turn these people around? You need to be the energy source to get your people going. You need to be able to motivate them. Mm-hmm. And once they're motivated and you keep that motivation high, it's like there's nothing they can't do.
How did what you learned in public speaking, all of the effort and time that you put into developing yourself as a public speaker in our course, how did that impact you as a leader with ROTC? What transferred over?
The individual little aspects that we worked on, the storytelling and being able to project your voice, those are just some of the things that we got to learn in public speaking that I have used to become a better briefer when I'm giving information about my cadets or my squadron that I'm running now. I'm able to use some of these aspects that we learned in public speaking to deliver even more accurate and better information. And I'm seeing these similarities, right off the bat between going to our public speaking class, which was on Thursday, and then me briefing the next morning at like 6 a.m. So I would be using things we're learning Thursday night, internalizing it, and then Friday morning being like, I remember, Tatiana was telling us about projecting our voice, and that's something I would try and do.
Well, I'm so happy to hear that the class was valuable and that specific skills translated directly the next morning into another really important area of your life, which is being a part of this military program and developing your leadership skills. If you had to give a message to our audience in one sentence, what's the message? What's the bottom line message you want everybody to take away from their time listening to you today?
My message would definitely be always be ready to help, because you never know when you're going to need help or when you're going to be struggling.
Now, let's say you have to put that message on a t-shirt in fewer words. How would you say it?
I would say something along the lines of helping hands come together. And then it would be like two hands like shaking on the front, helping hands come together.
All right. If you could go back in time, Steve, you only have 15 seconds and you can talk to your 18-year-old self. What do you say in those 15 seconds?
Basically, I would tell my 18-year-old self, you know what? You have an awesome, wild 3 years ahead of you, and you're going to completely change the person. And you're going to love the way you end up. You're going to be happy with yourself. You're going to be happy with your career choice. You're going to be happy with, you're never going to regret anything. You're going to live life to the fullest, and you're really going to enjoy it.
It's really moving with the kind of work that I do and my investment in developing this next generation of leaders to hear somebody like you express yourself like that. It's really powerful. Steve, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course. And on that note, self-care is hugely important to me too. So I want to know, what have you been doing to take good care of yourself lately?
I started working out again. So I quarantine hit, and I was still exercising a lot. And then when I moved up here, I found myself losing an uncomfortable amount of weight, and to the point where I saw my parents a couple weeks ago, and they said, "You look extremely thin." I kind of, it took a little dip on the self-confidence there, but I started working out again, and I've been feeling great. I've been starting to get muscle back, and I wake up every morning now and I look in the mirror and I'm like, all right, it's going to be a good day. It's a good way to start my day. So that was just the most recent time where, I had a little bit of a confidence dip, but I was able to bring myself out of it by just always keeping hope. Like, yeah, I'm going to get my muscle back. Yes, I'm going to maintain my healthy lifestyle when school starts. Yes, it's going to be okay.
When we take really good care of ourselves and we keep a healthy mindset, and that doesn't mean we don't acknowledge the issues or things are going to happen, but that we can address them, then we're taking good care of ourselves so that we can help other people. We're helping ourselves and we're helping other people. And when things get difficult, we're able to ask for help. And sometimes those are people who are in positions of leadership in our lives. Sometimes we are those leaders, but no matter what stage of leadership we get to, we're always going to need somebody to turn to as well. Sometimes leadership can be a lonely place, but we need to be able to turn to other leaders, people we trust in our lives, to build ourselves up. And then that cycle continues. We're in leadership, but we need help. And then when we're good, in a good place, we can help other people, and we influence those people to help other people. So that's how I connect all of the things that you've shared today. Last question for you. Do you have a moment in our public speaking class that stands out the most to you?
I want to say we were doing the presentation on visual aids, and I stood on top of the chair to teach everyone how to tie a shoe. And in that moment, I was like, this is going to be a great idea. And when I got to class, I realized the chairs, not only do they spin, but they're on wheels. And I stood on top of the chair and I almost fell.
The fact that you were brave and took this risk and did something different to stand out. it's not, the issue isn't even like, did it work well or did it not work well? Because we can certainly talk about that, but that you were willing to take a risk and do something that was different and memorable, because it was memorable to you, it's also memorable to me. And I think that that's also one of the qualities in leadership that we see in people, is in creative leaders, not just in leaders, to be able to do something that is unexpected, memorable, and shocking in some ways, but in good ways.
It's a huge part of what we learn in our military training. We never be afraid to take a risk unless it involves the safety and well-being of another person.
Of
But
course.
never be afraid to take a leadership risk, because it could be, you could come through with the best leadership theory that works for you by taking risks. That's all it is just constant risks on top of each other and learning about it. That's what it is.
Steve, thank you for your words today. It has been refreshing and re-energizing for me as your previous professor to get to share this time with you. I want to wish you the absolute best as you go into what I hope will be the best year of college.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate your kind words, and starting this series. I think this is a great way for not only students but the professors to be able to have an open and real discussion about leadership on a college level between students and professors. And I think this is a really awesome opportunity, and I'm very grateful to be included on it.